Hello everyone, this is Marcel. Welcome to my channel. Have you ever heard the phrase, in a relationship, you can either be right or you can be happy? I certainly have. Anecdotes such as that get passed around because so often men find themselves in situations, or arguments rather, that they can never win. Logic, facts, and a general understanding of the situation count for absolutely nothing when it comes to an angry woman in the middle of an argument. I always used to really despise that feeling when something, and generally nothing important, would go wrong, if there even was anything wrong at all. Within mere minutes of me trying to explain my side, just present the facts of why I disagreed, I would have some angry woman spewing venom and hate in my face. All the while I'd be saying things like, no, I really didn't burn the food. It's sitting right there. That appointment's not set for today, it's for Tuesday. We can't afford that stuff right now. We need to put the money towards the car. The whole time while this happens, the man's frustration rises. See, he's not allowed to yell. He's not allowed to scream. He's not allowed to be aggressive in any way, let alone raise his hands. See, for him to do anything other than being a whipped shell of a man, to placate to all of her wants and needs, would slot him into the category of being an abusive male. But that's an entirely different discussion. For now, let's focus on why these arguments, meaning the ones that occur so easily, frequently, and can never be won, happen, and why it is that a man will never be victorious for the outcome. So first of all, realize, if it's not obvious already, that when it comes to arguments, same as many other things dealing with women, they argue emotionally. She's not saying that she is right. She is saying that she feels right. In the case of men, for the most part, rightness comes from a sense of how many facts lay in the man's favor, and whether or not counterfacts are admissible in his mind. Are opposing views relevant in that particular case? Call it a logical approach. Realize from this point forward that when it comes to these kinds of arguments in relationships, or even just with women in general, that the facts, no matter how accurate, really don't matter. See, when the man presents a counter view to what she's saying, it's not perceived as you're wrong because of this reason. It's perceived as you should feel wrong. It ties in directly with her emotional state. So by disagreeing with her, he's not simply attacking her argument, he's attacking her, at least in her mind. So in a sense, the man is presented with something of a dirty ultimatum that he either has to choose between being responsible for her emotional demise or being responsible for whatever crime he's being accused of committing within the relationship. Women will use that emotional backlash to leverage the guy's willingness to go along with her demands, whatever it is she is saying, whereas the male will dissociate from the argument. It's whatever he's presenting, it's his facts. But it's not him. It's not a part of him. Sure, it sucks to feel wrong or to be wrong, but even the more stubborn of men out there don't feel like they are their argument. Something to consider here. And frequency really does play a factor when it comes to these little fights, whatever you want to call them. Misunderstandings happen, but if it's frequent enough that it is obvious, then it's probably intentional. Most likely, whatever she is yelling about has absolutely nothing to do with what originally angered her. How hard she nitpicks and focuses on small, irrelevant details is a reflection of her general emotional state. She has a threshold of what she feels should be tolerated, and when that is exceeded, then it doesn't matter what he's doing, he's wrong. When that threshold has become unreasonably thin, it means that something else is bothering her, and she's not likely communicating that other fact properly. I have been in several relationships where they have admitted after the fact that the entire reason they had the argument with me was to try and get a rise out of me. They wanted me to be angry. They wanted me to fight or become violent so they would have excuses to do other things. I've had them admit that there wasn't anything really I had done wrong. They were just angry. I've even had them go so far as to admit that they were interested in another guy, wanted to break up with me, but didn't know how and didn't have an excuse. So they started creating false fights and arguments to kind of give a bad taste to the relationship so they wouldn't feel as bad themselves for walking away from it. What really makes you sick to think about is there are times when they will argue and fight for positive ends too. It doesn't even have to be a bad thing. They could be starting an argument so that they can forgive the guy afterwards. At least in their mind, it's a good thing because they're seeing progression in that forgiveness. Not to mention the control, the debt that's owed for being forgiven. How nice of her to forgive the guy for the thing that he really didn't do or doesn't even exist. That's why she gets so angry and distraught when he proves that she's wrong, because that breaks her emotional narrative. She can't go along with what she's trying to create if he proves that it's not true. Then you have some of the ladies out there that will literally start arguments out of sheer boredom. Whether the guy isn't giving her enough attention, isn't spending enough time around her, it doesn't matter what the cause is. She's going to start the argument so she gets that emotional rush. She gets that feeling like he's there, the rage, the power. She craves that attention. And it's going to drive her crazy not to get it, to the point where she will create a problem that isn't even there to force that attention out of him. It's no different than when a kid walks over and breaks a vase just so that their parents will notice them. Then lastly, and this one always pissed me off the worst, is when you'd have a woman that will cause a problem to test your love. I hated the test your love scenarios. You know, there would be this huge fight and argument and this get out, I don't want to see you ever agains. Then it would turn around as, well, I didn't really mean any of that. I just wanted to see if you actually loved me enough to stay. Oh, God, I hated that. To think of the logic of, here, let me break this and see if you like it enough to fix it. Some of you may call these shit tests, sure, but they're definitely a specific kind of shit test. See, what guys in these kind of relationships don't realize is that the minute these little fights, misunderstandings, and arguments happen, or they become frequent, the relationship is already lost. It's to the point where there's emotional games, there's drama that doesn't belong there, doesn't need to be there. It's basically a downhill slope. Keep in mind, I'm referring to very venomous, pointless arguments here, not, logically handled ones. When communication breaks down to the point in a relationship where the communication itself doesn't even matter, only the emotional state of one of the parties involved, it's almost like the romance has terminal cancer. He can keep it around on life support for maybe a while, let it drain his resources, suck all the energy out of him, bring down his mood and his well-being, or he can pull the plug, let it die quickly and painlessly, as possible anyway. Either way, the end result is the same. The thing is that when stuff like this happens, I really don't believe that love is a factor in the relationship anymore. At least not in the way most men think of love. A loving partner would never cause that kind of pain. Not intentionally, at least. And even unintentionally, it shows a lack of self-awareness and understanding to not even see that there's a problem. Either way, it's a massive red flag. There always came times in my past where I would look at the inverse of a romantic situation, whereas if I were to treat her the same way she were treating me, would she leave me for it? Or would society crush me for it? And if the answer was yes, then I would act as if I were her in that case, and I would leave her. Because I know that I would want to have enough respect for myself to stand up for how I should be treated. See, in the end, we teach people how to treat us. In everything that we do and what we allow, what we tolerate, our acceptance or our acknowledgement of their behavior is condoning it, and by what we allow. So by permitting these things to continue, men are agreeing with them. Even if he says no, he didn't burn the toast, in the big picture, he is still saying yes. The dirty secret at the end of the story is that it doesn't matter how many of these little micro arguments are won, lost. Those are the battles, and it's losing sight of the war, which is basically the loss of the man's happiness, freedom, and future. In the end, if he tolerates toxic behavior from her once, maybe we'll say twice, then he'll tolerate it forever. He needs to stand his ground the first time. Anyway, I hope that was interesting and informative. Let me know down below if you agree, disagree, have had your own experiences that you want to share. I want to hear it. If you want to hear more content like mine, take out some frustration on that like button, share, subscribe, and until next time, this has been Marcel.